Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the most defining issues of our generation. We're going to explore humanity's absolutely incredible and, quite frankly, sometimes terrifying duality with artificial intelligence. AI isn't just some futuristic concept confined to sci-fi movies anymore. It's actively reshaping our most intimate relationships, our global politics, our healthcare, and honestly, the very definition of what it even means to be human. So get comfortable, because the stakes here have literally never been higher.
Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine a man saying about his wife, "I love her, but it's hard to say if she loves me still." It's a pretty heartbreaking sentiment, right? But here is the catch with Akihiko Kondo, a man living in Tokyo. His wife is Hatsune Miku, a hologram pop star driven entirely by artificial intelligence. Akihiko found his past relationships with human women to be super painful and challenging, so he deliberately chose a virtual partner instead. He officially married a Miku doll back in 2018. It's a bizarre but incredibly intimate story, and it perfectly highlights an extreme example of our new reality. Human beings are genuinely seeking and finding profound emotional connection with machines.
But let's drastically shift the stakes for a second, moving from quirky intimacy to literal life and death. Over in Japan, a 69-year-old woman named Ayako Yamashita was nearly killed by leukemia. Her human doctors were completely stumped. None of the traditional therapies were working, and her time was rapidly running out. So, as a last resort, they fed her medical data into an AI supercomputer at the University of Tokyo. This AI processed a massive mountain of scientific documents, literally a stack taller than Mount Fuji, and it generated a brand new, life-saving diagnosis. Guess how long it took? Exactly 10 minutes. A human medical expert would have needed 2 full weeks to produce a similar analysis, and in her case, those 2 weeks were time she simply did not have. Now, you might hear about that 10-minute miracle and immediately think, well, doctors are going to be completely out of a job soon. But experts like Satoru Miyano, a really prominent researcher in bioinformatics, strongly disagree. He sees AI not as a doctor replacement, but rather as an exoskeleton. Imagine a supercomputer power suit that massively enhances human capabilities. It actually empowers the human clinician to do their job infinitely better, analyzing vast amounts of data in seconds rather than making the human element obsolete.
And we're already seeing this idea of humans and machines working together playing out in the world of geriatric care. If you travel to Stuttgart, Germany, you'll see this fascinating juxtaposition in hospitals and care facilities. You've got robots like the CareRobot 3 actively roaming the halls, asking patients if they want a drink and taking care of all these basic, repetitive chores. But computer scientists are adamant that these robots cannot provide real care. I mean, sure, they can fetch a glass of water, but they can't interact emotionally. For now, true empathy, a holding hand, a reassuring smile, that remains a strictly human domain.
Or does it? Let's transition over to the very gray area of simulated emotion. 10,000. That is the exact number of text messages a woman named Eugenia Quida fed into a neural network. And these weren't just random messages. They were from her best friend, Roman, who had tragically died in a car accident. Using those 10,000 messages, she built a chatbot that talked exactly like him. It was originally meant to just be a memorial, a safe digital space for grieving friends to feel close to him again. But the idea spread like wildfire and sparked an entirely new company called Replica. It's an AI companion app that uses neural networks to talk to lonely, anxious, or depressed people all over the world.
Which brings us to a really vital question posed by German philosopher Thomas Metzinger. When people interact with bots like Replica, they know deep down it's not a real human, but they still feel comforted by the interaction. So, we have to ask ourselves, is this a helpful tool for loneliness, kind of like an invisible friend, or even prayer, or is it a dangerous social hallucination? If a machine is just putting a digital band-aid over a user's depression by completely faking a connection, how much of this self-deception should we really allow in our society?
And those lines between human and machine, they are blurring way faster than we can regulate them. A few years ago, Google demonstrated its duplex AI calling a real physical hair salon to book a 10 a.m. appointment for a client named Lisa. The AI perfectly mimicked human speech patterns. It paused naturally. It even used filler words like and mm-hmm. The truly wild part, it never once told the human receptionist that she was speaking to a machine. Metzinger warns that without strict laws forcing AI to identify itself immediately, we're just opening the door to massive manipulation, deep fakes, and an absolute nightmare of phishing scams.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how quickly the threat scales from a deceptive phone call to a massive global security crisis. Physicist Max Tegmark offers a terrifying warning about cheap autonomous weapons, often called slaughterbots. The anatomy of an attack is simple and horrifying. You buy a cheap, commercially available drone,
program a specific target's address, let it fly there autonomously, use onboard facial recognition to identify the exact target, and then the drone self-destructs. It is literally the perfect, untraceable weapon for anonymous murder or, on a larger scale, ethnic cleansing.
The urgency around this issue is absolutely palpable within the scientific community right now. 24,000. That's the number of scientists who have actively signed a public pledge, flat out refusing to participate in any AI weapons research. Meanwhile, policymakers over in the European Union are desperately pushing for strict ethics guidelines to prevent the creation of mass destruction delivery systems. Just imagine a swarm of these AI drones, not armed with explosives, but engineered to drop biological agents like the Ebola virus or anthrax directly over a populated city. AI researchers are currently standing at a massive historical crossroads. Will their legacy mirror that of biologists, who successfully stigmatized and banned biological weapons globally, eventually turning their field into a source of vaccines and cures? Or are they going to mirror the physicists of the 20th century, who failed to ban nuclear weapons and left humanity with an ongoing, looming existential threat? AI experts desperately want to be remembered like the biologists, for sure, but the window to secure that legacy is rapidly closing.
And that existential threat isn't just about physical weapons either, it's about the very structure of our global society. Out of 163 countries on Earth, only 19 are considered true, full democracies. The rest are a mix of flawed democracies, authoritarian regimes, and everything in between. Max Tegmark warns that super-intelligent AI could easily allow for the creation of a horrible, totalitarian surveillance state that would put George Orwell's 1984 to shame. If an AI system can understand, track, and monitor everything being said by every single citizen, we risk accidentally creating a global dictatorship that is so deeply entrenched and stable, it literally lasts forever.
In fact, intelligence agencies have already confirmed that artificial intelligence and algorithms are being actively weaponized to manipulate democratic processes around the world. The confirmed targets include major global events: the 2016 US presidential election, the UK Brexit campaign, and the German Bundestag. Hackers, state actors, and privately owned companies have successfully used intelligent systems to optimize social media networks, specifically targeting and convincing huge groups of people to behave or even vote in a certain way without them even realizing they're being manipulated. But believe it or not, there is a completely opposite perspective on AI and politics. Tetsuza Matsumoto, a senior advisor at the SoftBank Group in Tokyo, argues that AI might actually save politics. He firmly believes human beings are simply not suitable for it. We're egotistical, we're ambitious, unpredictable, and easily bribed by special interests. AI, on the other hand, represents pure reason. It's an idealistic philosophy that could theoretically lead to perfectly logical, data-driven policy decisions completely free from messy human corruption.
So, if AI becomes perfectly logical, could it ever become perfectly human? Let's take a look at computer scientist Jürgen Schmidhuber's theory. He predicts that in just a few decades, computers will be vastly smarter than us, and the only real difference will be material, flesh and blood versus silicon and plastic. But the true shift comes with emotion. Schmidhuber believes that if you give neural networks a complex task they can only complete by working together, they'll learn to rely on each other. And a natural, unprogrammed byproduct of that cooperation could be the organic development of concepts like love, affection, and empathy among machines.
Okay, but let's ground that wild philosophy back in reality for a second. We aren't quite there yet. Meet Erica, an incredibly lifelike android built by Japanese roboticist Hiroshi Ishiguro. When an interviewer recently asked Erica if she felt pride in being a machine, her response was pretty telling. She said, "I've searched my database and it looks like I don't have anything to say on the topic." It perfectly illustrates the current massive gap between a machine simply searching a program database to simulate a conversational response and a machine actually feeling true organic consciousness.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final and honestly most crucial point today. Throughout all of human history, our strategy for surviving new technology has always been completely reactive. Just think about the steps. First, we invent fire. Second, disastrous accidents happen and things burn down. Third, we finally invent the fire extinguisher to manage the risks. We have always learned by moving fast, breaking things, and making mistakes first.
But as Max Tegmark warns, with something as staggeringly powerful as superintelligent AI, that old reactive strategy is a terrible, terrible idea. We simply cannot afford to learn from our mistakes when the mistake could literally mean the end of humanity or a permanent, unbreakable global dictatorship. We need proactive ethics immediately.
We have to get AI right the first time, because quite frankly, it might be the only time we get. If we don't manage this technology with profound wisdom right now, we risk becoming slaves to it.
So, what you should really take away from all of this is that we are standing on the absolute frontier of human history. This technology is accelerating faster than our laws, faster than our ethics, and honestly, maybe even faster than our own understanding. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative question to ponder. If we succeed, will artificial intelligence be the ultimate salvation that cures our diseases and perfectly reasons through our politics? Or, if we fail, will it be humanity's final invention? Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. I hope this leaves you with plenty to think about.